Barakati Yahweh, Barakati Yahushai, Barakati Yahweh, Barakati Yahushai, Barakati Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Ruach Hadash. Turn this on. Double honors to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone rule and teach well. Word. This came to me as I was meditating today. You know, I like going for but I don't know, you know. I was thinking about it, the scriptures were coming to me, and then something else popped up, right? Because I'm trying to stick to more of the milk, which faith is a milk topic, but I haven't done something as simple as going into the image of the Messiah, right? The image and how that is important, okay? Not only the image, but also the name, okay? Because earlier this week, my parents, they're Christians, and they come from a distinct Christian sect where they have aspects of the ancient culture mixed in with Christianity, okay? They keep some or most of the laws, right? They have the purification ritual, and it differs on genders, male and female. They also have the period, right? The whole blood thing when a woman is, I guess, defiled, right? She has to be put away. So they have that as well, and a few other things. So they keep some things, but that's not good enough. And the reason why that is because they still call on the name Jesus, and they still uphold that graven image, okay? And as I was talking to my mom, she was like, "Oh, you gotta do this, you gotta do this, you gotta do that, because I have a prophet that I'm in good contact with." I'm like, okay, well, the man that you speak of, right? Does he believe in the same thing that I believe in? Okay, and one scripture came to my mind, Amos, where it says, "Can two walk together except they be agreed?" If we don't believe the same thing, I'm not going to come together and have a prayer with you, because I'm not going to believe in that prayer, right? For number one, the God that you call on is the false God, okay? That's the first and foremost thing, all right? And number two, I don't know the doctrine or the belief that you're set on, all right? This thing is not about getting along with everybody, because the Most High or Yahweh Shai, he wasn't like that, okay? When he was on the scene and he was going against the different sects of the custom, what they call Judaism, he wasn't liked, and he wasn't looking to be liked by everyone, all right? So he's the most perfect example to follow. And if he was like that, as it states in the scriptures, the servant's not greater than his Lord, right? So if he went through that, we're also going to go through the same thing as well, all right? So first Let me get that scripture because it popped up on my mind. Servant is greater than his master, right? This is John 15, verse 20, the book of John. It says, remember the word that I said unto you, okay, because this is he's re-quoting what he told them in John the 13th chapter, that I said unto you, the servant is not greater than his Lord. If they have persecuted me, they will also persecute you. Okay, and we keep this in the back of our minds because, as we're carrying on the cross of Yahushua, we're carrying our own burdens, right? Following after the Lord in truth and sincerity. Okay, there will come a time where they will try to use our words against us. Okay, and that goes into trying to make a man offender of the word. Okay, that's in the book of Isaiah. Let's get that. A man offender. This is Isaiah 29, verse 21. It says that make a man. Let me start at verse 20. Okay, it says, for the terrible one is brought not. Okay, the terrible one are the Edomites, starting with the elites. They're the terrible ones, okay? And you can also acquaint that with Numbers 24, right? The head of the nations, Amalek. They are the terrible ones. They're the worst of the worst, okay? So the terrible one, right, the bloodthirsty nation has been brought to naught, through the downfall of America, Babylon the Great, which is going to be destroyed by nuclear destruction. America will be destroyed by fire, okay? Because this city, right, this great nation, as they call it, was founded by bloodshed, okay? It wasn't through fair deals and, you did have some certain Edomites, which they could have been Jake. I was reading about William Penn and how he was fair to the Gadites, but the people after him, they went against his word and basically went after Gad with the sword, okay, and that's what you have now. It needs to be cleansed. Okay, you cannot have a nation being prolonged that shed, especially the blood of the Israelites. Okay, that shed the blood of the other. We could let's go to Revelation 11 chapter. This is all through the Spirit. I wanted to stay on topic, but that's kind of impossible. This is Revelation 11, verse 18. Okay, it says, and the nations were angry, and thy wrath is come, right, in the time of the dead, that they should be judged, and thou should give reward unto thy servants, the prophets, and to the saints, and to them that fear thy name. I should destroy them. We just destroy you. No, that's not the word I'm looking for. The blood of the saints. Blood of the saints. Yep, Revelation 17, verse 6. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints. Right, the woman represents America. Because if you don't know, America takes in any ideology out there. It could be Buddhism, Hinduism, Judaism, Christianity, Taoism, all these different isms, okay? All these different ideas of the world, right? All throughout the world, it is brought here into America and is accepted by the people, and it is given a go-ahead by the government. They have something called freedom to religion, all right? So that creates a whorish nature, because America sleeps with every ideology under the sun. It's like a woman, right? Here it is, she started out as a virgin, and that virgin was being mated with Christianity, and eventually it started spreading out. She started sneaking out the back door at night to get popped by Judaism, big Jew, all right? He's blowing her back out. And then a few hours later, she gets intrigued by Muhammad, the Muslim, okay? And then Muhammad, the Muslim, he gives her that sword. She gets pegged. So it's just a all around mess, and that creates a diseased land, right? That's in Jeremiah, greatly polluted. The pussy is diseased. Not only that, but it fucks up the mind of the body. Okay, it fucks up the mind of the body. So America is sick. That's why the people are so confused, because there are different spirits and forms of religions roaming around the place. Okay, roaming around the place, and what that does is just brings confusion. And when confusion is there, right, nothing can stand. Okay, confusion brings division. And if a house be divided, it cannot stand. We know that. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints, right? The blood of the saints are the Israelites, okay? Starting with the age of exploration, as they call it. And with the blood of the martyrs, okay, which is coming up soon, those that stand stiffly for the words of Yahweh Shemi Shai, some of them will be put to death for what we believe in, okay? And with the blood of the martyrs of Yahweh Shai, all right, and when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. Okay, so yeah, this nation is soaked with blood. Okay, and as it says in Numbers, by blood it defileth the land. Let's get that. By blood it defileth the man, and it can only be shed by those, by the blood of those that shed it. I believe Numbers 35. Yeah, Numbers 35 says, "Do not defile the land." This is Numbers 35, verse 33. It says, "This will ensure that the land where you live will not be polluted, for murder pollutes the land, and no sacrifice except the execution of the murderer can purify the land from murder." Okay? So there you go. Murder, premeditated. All right? Because when they were making these treaties, they were setting God up, meditating their heart how to bring them down, how to bring them to their knees. They set these treaties up with no intention of keeping them. Okay? And when Gad took these treaties, they believed him, they believed the devil. And then a few weeks later, you have what? A bunch of cavalrymen coming in, raiding and pillaging in the middle of the night, when all the men have laid down their arms. And this is what you get. This is what you get. Never trust thine enemy. As iron rusteth, so does his wickedness. But because of prophecy, right, the Lord allowed it to happen. Okay? The Lord allowed it to happen. So from there, let's go to Zephaniah, the 3rd chapter. Let's go over Isaiah 29. All right? Because I was making a point here. It says, "For the terrible one is brought to naught, and the scorner is confused, and all that watch for iniquity are cut off," right? The watchers of iniquity, okay, those that pray and send out enchantments for people to commit wickedness and all that. It talks about woe to them that give bother to his neighbor to make him drunk, okay? These devils are always watching to see if we're committing sin. That make a man an offender for a word. They make a man an offender, all right? Offense, because of what we're saying, because of what we're preaching. They seek to put us in the pit, and that we should die in the pit. But Yahweh Shai has us. He got us. He's going to redeem us. He's only going to touch the 2/3 of our people. He's going to go through them like he's going to go through the 2/3 like some box, right? A man that hadn't had box in 2 years, and he finally gets them. He's going to ravish it. So that's how Esau is going to be when he sees the 2/3. But for the elect, right? It says in the book of Psalms, "Touch not my anointed and do my prophets no harm." So the anointed are the elect, the 1/3 and 144,000. If we be of that number, right? It says, "If the Lord be on our side," right? What can I fear for what man can do unto me? If the Lord be for us, who can be against us? That's in the book of Romans, the 8th chapter. That make a man an offender for a word, and lay a snare for him, that reprove in the gate, and turn aside the just for a thing of naught, So we are reproving the gates of the nobles, the elites, and they're readying that snare, that trap, to make us look like the enemy before the people, right? But as it says in Isaiah, it says, every word that thou should, what's that? Every word, let me get it. I usually know that scripture by heart, so I'm pretty surprised that I could not quote it this time. It says, every tongue that shall rise against thee in judgment. Yeah, no weapon formed against me shall prosper. I can't wait to see a lot of you fucking, oh my goodness, man. Some brothers hate Esau more than Jake. Me, I already know Esau is the devil. I even knew that when I was in the world. But it's you fucking niggas, man. I fucking hate you niggas with a passion. The 2/3. I hate you niggas, man. And I can't wait for the blood to start pouring. All right? It says, Isaiah 54, verse 17, this is in the GNT. It says, but no weapon will be able to hurt you. Okay? You will have an answer for all who accuse you. All right? So they're accusing. They're getting ready to make that accusation. As it says, the accuser of thy brethren, you're not going to win. This is the spirit, by the way. I wanted to go into the image, not the image as in the image of the beast, but just going into the image and the name and how that has power. But yeah, the spirit is going to do what it's going to do. It took me somewhere else. This is Revelation 12, verse 9. And the great dragon was cast out. This is when we get the victory. Let me slow down. I'm getting excited. That old serpent called the devil and Satan, Shaitan, right? Which I had a good conversation with a Jake. It was on Friday. He was from El Salvador, Zebulonite. And he might very well be of the elect because he's seen, it states, wisdom maketh a man's face to shine. He's seen, how, like he knew there was something about me, and he started asking me, what's your religion? What's your religion? When somebody asks you that, guarantee that, they see something in you. And we had to talk about, society. He was telling me that he was going to retire in El Salvador. I said, yeah, that's a good idea. And he was complaining about America. It's just, that's how he might be of the elect. And Lord will not go back to that cafe. I'll give him the YouTube channel, right? I'll give him the YouTube channel. Okay, because the elect, it says the elect will always be sighing and crying. They see that there's something wrong with this world, with the society. That's a good indicator of the elect. All right. So he didn't like how the world was running, and we started talking about religion, and he was saying that the Christian church are wicked. They're asking all these riches from the people, but they're not giving anything back. And that's a very good point. Okay, because Paul, he talked about that, right? If I sow unto you spiritual things, is it not okay that I reap unto you carnal? All right, so it's okay to have tights and whatnot, but when you're not giving anything of substance to the people, then it's robbery. You're just taking their money for naught. Okay, you're taking their money for naught and you're running with it. All right. But yeah, we went through so many topics, and then towards the end, as I was leaving, he was asking me, "What's your religion?" I told him, "Oh, I'm a Hebrew Israelite, and we preach every Friday." I didn't say every Friday, but I told him that we're on St. Paul Street by Charles Village in Baltimore. Lord willing, I go back there again, maybe with the elders, Elder Pashai. We hang out there. Really good spot. I like it. The diner. They have some decent food. Man, the tacos were amazing, and then he gave me like I think it was like a burrito bowl. That shit was, man, that shit was hitting. You know how Jacob said that shit was hitting, bro. That shit was amazing. That shit was amazing. Okay, that shit was amazing. It was fucking wonderful. Good food, man. Good food. Good guy. Lord willing, I see him again. And give him the YouTube channel. But let's get back to the lesson, right? Which deceived the whole world, and he was cast out into the earth. So he was essentially just taken out of power, right? And his angels were cast out with. And now people bug out and say, "Oh my God, the angels! So that means Satan. Satan. He fought against the Most High." It's a good mythological story, but realistically, does it make sense from a logical standpoint? Here it is. The Most High, he calls himself the omnipotent, the omnipresent, everywhere, omnipotently all powerful. But yet he was able to have one of his own creation rebel against him. Do you want to worship a God like that? Huh? I always ask these Christians, that's a thought that I always had when I was young. I'm talking about 11, 10 years old. I'm like, wait a minute. If Satan fought against the Most High, then why would I ever worship him? He can't protect me. How can I worship a God that can't control his own angels? All right, but when you come into the knowledge of this truth, you understand that, look, that's all fables. Cunningly devised fables, as they say. All right, and it's far from the truth of the Bible. All right, so the angels are referring to those that fight with this man, Esau, and the system, right? You got the military, the Space Force, the Air Force, mainly the Space Force, because they are going to be ones that will be in the heavens of heavens, all right? And I heard a loud voice saying, in heaven, now is come salvation, right? This is the true term of salvation. People saying, oh, I'm saved. I'm like, you're saved from what? You can walk outside and get hit by a car. You could get hit by a stray bullet. Lightning can strike you. A black bear or let me say a brown bear can eat you. You're walking into the wrong territory of the woods. So how are you saved? And strength, right? And true salvation is us being delivered from these chains of darkness, as Jude spoke about, being reserved unto that judgment. We're waiting to receive the good judgment, not the bad judgment. We don't want to get hit with that fire. That's why we're going through the fire now. And I heard a loud voice saying, heaven now is come salvation and strength, and the kingdom of our power, Yahweh, and the power of his anointed, right? The power of his anointed Yahushai. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down. The accuser, the people that accuse us, make accusations. They say we're this, they say we're that. They reproach us for what we believe in. The accuser of our brethren is cast down, all right? And the brethren, remember, these are the angels saying. Because the brethren, we're also brothers to the angels. We're the same. We're just angels in carnal bodies, essentially. All right? For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our power, day and night. Oh, they're doing this. Oh, they're doing that. Okay? And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. All right? So the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony. And you're only going to overcome starting with the name. Let's go to the book of Zephaniah, right? This is Zephaniah 3, and I'm going to start at verse 9. It says, "For then will I turn to the people a pure language, that they may all call upon the name of the Lord, Yahweh Shai, to serve him with one consent." Right? So they're all going to call upon the name of the Lord, Yahweh Shai, to serve him with one consent. And it's starting now, you know. It talks about that in the book of Hosea. Let's get that. After many days, right? Israel shall abide without a priest, but shall abide with a priest. This Hosea 3 verse 4. It says, "For the children of Israel shall abide many days without a king and without a priest and without an ephod or a sacrifice, and without an image and without an ephod and without teraphim. Afterward shall the children of Israel return and seek the Lord Yahweh Shai, their power," right? Seek the Lord, their power, and David, their king. Okay, David, their king, which we already have done that. We identified who our king is, and that's King Mashah. And those that have the eyes to see, right? Blessed are your eyes for they see, and blessed are your ears for they hear. Okay, we believe it through the Spirit. I don't believe it because some man told me. I believe it because it's spiritual. I thought about it. I asked the Lord to open my eyes, and eventually I'm like, yeah, this dude had to be. Just hearing the stories about him, I'm like, it talks about you being convinced. You have to be convinced. Do the research yourself. Look through the prophecies. Okay, let every man be fully persuaded in his own mind. Don't believe something because another man believes it. Don't do it because of somebody else. You got to do this for yourself, first and foremost. You got to believe in this truth for yourself. Okay? That's very important. Believe in Yahweh Shai for yourself. Right? That talks about what? The man that it talks about that straight gate. Only one can go through. You have to believe this thing for yourself, because nobody can hold your hand towards the kingdom. All right? So, afterwards shall the children of Israel return and seek the Lord their power, and David their king, and shall fear the Lord, Yahweh Shai, in his goodness, in the latter days, which is now, the latter days, okay? We are in the end days, and all our enemies and all those that rise up against Yahweh Shai, right? As it says, those that hate me love death. They're going to taste that death. The doors of mercy. The doors of mercy are closing soon. Okay, and if you're not under the hedge and the protection of Yahweh Shai, you're fucked. Okay, you're fucked, and the Lord's not dealing with you. All right, it could change eventually. You could be a part of that 12 hour. But as for now, all hell is getting ready to break loose. The train is getting ready to leave. You don't want to be scrambling, right? Running towards the train as the door is closing, hoping to get a seat. Okay, because the train conductor, which is Yahushua, he might not be so pitiful. You don't want to test that theory. So from there, let's go to let's see if I have anything else. I guess we can hit Colossians, the 2nd chapter, right? There was something that I wanted to get in here. This is Colossians 2. And I'm going to start at verse... I'm going to start at verse 5. It says, "For though I be absent in the flesh, yet am I with you in the spirit, joining and beholding your order, and the steadfastness of your faith in Yahushua." Right? The steadfastness of your faith, not wavering. Sometimes we have our moments where we're like, damn, is the Lord really dealing with us? We all get those thoughts, but the beauty of steadfastness is not falling into a pit, into a cycle, right? You just falling and 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 falling, and you never get yourself up, right? It's okay to have those moments, but you gotta bounce back. They say it's not about how you fall, but it's how you react. It's not about how you messed up, but how you react. Stop thinking about the problem and think about the solution. Be solution minded. As ye have therefore received Yahushai, the Lord, so walk ye in him. Okay? And we're walking in the Lord to the best of our ability, right? We live a particular lifestyle that is strange to the people of the world. People ask me, oh, how come this guy is so quiet in his apartment on, certain nights? Well, bitch, it's because it's the Shabbat, and I'm just using it as an example because people are fucking weird. I advise any of you brothers who don't have a place, you want to move to a place that has thick walls, walls that are not so thin so everybody can hear you, because it just makes unnecessary enemies, right? It makes unnecessary enemies. Verse 7, it says, rooted and built up in him and established in the faith, right? Rooted and built up in him, in Yahushua, established in the faith, being grounded, having him as your foundation. And that goes with what? You have to go into the milk, okay? And this is something that I want to start doing Spirit Power Yahushua. Start making videos that deal with the milk, deal with the milk of the scriptures. No, you're not with the meat, right? Dealing with the milk. You want to do things that deal with the milk, okay? Because the milk is really what's going to save you. When the Lord comes back, he's not going to be asking you about, do you know the breakdown to Revelation, the 11th chapter? Do you know the breakdown to Ezekiel, the 38th chapter? Right? He's not going to ask you the breakdowns to all these different chapters. He's not going to ask you about these different breakdowns and chapters and whatnot. All these different things are relevant when it comes to salvation. Now, it's good to know, right? As someone that teaches, we're supposed to have an answer for every man that asks, right? But when it comes to just salvation itself, the milk is what's going to get you there, all right? And that's something that I'm going to start stressing on too as well. The sincere milk of the word. Beware lest any man, I skipped a verse. As ye have been taught, abounding therein with thanksgiving, right? Abounding therein with the thanksgiving, which is what? Through Yahushua. Beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit, after the tradition of men, after the rudiments of the world, and not after Yahushua. For in him dwelleth all the fullness of the Godhead boldly. All right, so in Yahushua dwelleth the fullness of the Godhead. All right, that's why, you got scriptures like, kiss the Son, lest he be angry, and thou perish from the way. It's through Yahushua, right? As it says, I think that's, what is that book of John? It says, what's that precept? Yeah. It says, no man can come unto me except my Father draw him, right? And draw him unto me. So you got all these different precepts. It says in, I think Colossians, the first chapter, talks about what? That The Lord, he gave what? All judgments, all these different things unto him. Okay, the judgment, the mercies, the orders of the heavens. So really, in a technical sense, we're supposed to worship Yahweh Shai, but we also include the Heavenly Father there as well, you know? So yeah, the name and image is important, okay? And you never want to forget that, all right? Because a lot of people out here, they disregard the aspect of just having that name and the image. And the image is not only just the image of the Messiah, because I was going to read Revelation, the first chapter, before I loaded this lesson, but it also goes into what's it called? The way you walk, right? That's also the image, right? The way you walk, the way you conduct yourself. Just living the life of a Jew, right? Living the life of a Jew that is in the spirit and not in the flesh, right? Because you have those that are Jews outwardly and you have those that are Jews inwardly, okay? And those that are Jews outwardly, they do the phylacteries, they have the garments, they have the fringes, but their minds have not been purged. And that's the key point. You know, you can do all the things of the law, but if you don't have Yahweh Shai in your mind, you know, having your mind purged from dead works, then it's in vain. You know, it is in vain. So our Lord willing, this lesson was edifying unto the elect. All right. Hopefully this was edifying. I wasn't rambling. I want to give all praises, honors, and glories due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakah, Quadash. Give a double honors to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone.